Hi every... Aha. Ez az, amit mondtál, hogy lesz. De így jó, és azt is Hi everyone, thank you for coming tonight to this UX meetup. I'm Orsi, and we are here today from the UX Budapest side. I will try not to trip on this. So we are here today from the UX Budapest side to build networks and to share knowledge between each other. So that's hopefully the outcome that we will get after this meetup. The topic today is designing for the youngest generation, so children. It's very exciting. We will have 2 presentations tonight and an interactive session as well. But before all that, I would like to first ask David, who is the one who helped us organize this very special location, to come up and say a few words.
Thank you very much. My name is David. I work here at Fortuna Bototon, and I have the honor to welcome you all on board. And I just would like to tell you that it's very nice to have you all here, and I'm very, very proud to be a part of it and actually have the chance to host the meetup. So I wish you a great time. Enjoy the meetup, and if you need anything, just please contact reception, and my colleagues are eager to help you.
Thank you. And now I would like to ask Katica from UX Studio to come up and again say a few words.
Okay. Yeah. Hey there. I'm Katica from UX Studio. UX Studio is a product design agency. We do UX, UI, and research for various businesses from various industries, and also provide strategic help on the advisory. This is the very first meetup that we are co-organizing with UX Budapest, and it was amazing to see how much effort you guys put in building this community and organize each and every event. So thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. And and let's see the topics. It was sparked by Boris' article, and it was amazing to see how much response it got, and we decided to go forward with this topic that is not much discussed in the UX community. So I'm looking forward to hear them as well, to discuss designing and doing research for children. Thank you very much.
Awesome. So first up is Réka. I will give over to you the mic and go for it.
Okay, hello everyone. So tonight, as already mentioned, we are going to speak about how to design for the youngest generation. And first, I will be speaking about how to do research with kids in general. And then Bori and Adam will present a case study about one of their projects. But before jumping into the presentation itself, I would like to briefly introduce myself. So I'm a UX researcher at the UX Studio with a developmental and cognitive psychological background. And during my university years at ALTA, I had the opportunity to help at ALTA Baby Lab. And then I also did my PhD there, and then I became a researcher there. So basically, I have been doing research with children for almost 10 years. And here I would like to ask a question from you. I don't know how familiar are you with this topic, how familiar are you with, in general, with research with children. So please raise your hands if you have done any research with children so far. Okay, some hands are in the air, but I think the majority of you haven't done research with children. I tried to build up this presentation to be able to say some new information, some interesting information for both groups, but yeah, we will see how it goes. Okay, and let's start the presentation with a very obvious sentence. children are very different from adults, of course. And it is not only because they are younger than we are, but it's also because they lack many, many important abilities, skills, and knowledge that we adults already have. And if you see on this picture, this little guy, he's playing hide and seek. If you are a parent, I think you have experienced similar situations. It's because children under a certain age are so egocentric that they think if they don't see you, you will definitely don't see them either. Of course, it's not true, but to know this, you have to acquire the ability, the perspective-taking ability, which means that we know that things can look differently from different perspectives. And children have to go through a long, long developmental journey to acquire these kind of skills, and of course other skills. I don't want to go into depth with the psychological, social, and cognitive background with this topic because it would need much more time. But I would like to highlight that before doing any research with children, it's very important to explore the children, to explore your target audience, and to explore where the children are in the social and cognitive development. So, for example, what physical, social, emotional, sensory, cognitive, and communication skills do they have? Because, of course, depending on that, you can imagine what to expect from them, and also you can set up your research accordingly. Okay, and how to build up a research if your target audience are children? In the following few minutes, I would like to go through the recruitment, the methods, the timing, the location, the communication, and last but not least, what to pay attention to when you are running a session with children. So let's start with the recruitment part. About sample size, to be honest, I think it's not that interesting because it's quite similar to adult studies. But the thing what I would like to highlight here is that maybe the cancellation rate can be much higher in the case of children's studies, at least based on my experience. It happened with me many times that, for example, the parent called me just before the session would have started that, I don't know, the kid got ill or just a random program just came up in the school or things like that. So this cancellation rate can be quite high, and it's good to prepare for that in advance. So if you can do that, recruit more children than you actually will need. The other thing is the contact part. Of course, we are not contacting children themselves, but we are contacting parents, teachers, and for example, principals as well. And whenever you are doing research with children, their parents always have to agree on their kids taking part in any kind of research, but it doesn't mean that you have to contact them first. And to be honest, that's a strategy that saved my life many times, that I contacted, for example, teachers, I contacted the school principals, because you can imagine that, for example, if you reach out to a teacher, you can get in contact with more than 20 children. So you don't have to contact parents one by one. And yeah, it can be a very beneficial and effective way of recruiting children. And about research call, of course, as I mentioned, we don't contact children, but we contact parents and adults. So the research call should attract adults' attention. And here I think it's very important to highlight that when you are writing a research call, try to empathize with the parents or with the teachers, with the principals, and also try to or how I did previously is I always try to write a bigger goal in these research calls and try to explain shortly for the teachers, for the parents, why it is good to them to take part in my research, how their participation will contribute to this bigger goal. I think not the best idea to motivate children or parents with the incentives and with the money that we do with adults. And an additional thing regarding recruitment is how to define your target audience. Here I think one thing is, of course, you have to define the age group. But it is important to know that skills, abilities, and knowledge are not always dependent only on the age, but there are many other factors that influence these things. For example, socioeconomic status, or for example, the institutional background. So whenever you are doing a research with kids, you also have to define the age, and you also have to think through what skills, what knowledge, and what abilities your participation have to have. And you have to write, of course, your screener questions accordingly. About the method, of course, research questions and hypotheses have to take into account when we are choosing a research method, but there are some other principles that are good to be taken into consideration with children's studies. And what are these principles? The first principle is quite easy. Create a research where children have fun, where they can feel comfortably, where they can act naturally. Children can be honest, and children are very honest, but only if they are not stressed, if they feel themselves comfortable. So this is a very important part. The second principle relates to verbal answers. Here in this table and also in the following tables, you will see colors. Red dots means that don't use that method or don't do that with that certain age group. Orange means that do it only if it is necessary, if there is no other solution. And green dots, of course, that means that that is a green light, you can do that with that certain age group. So regarding verbal answers, it is, of course, it is obvious that we do not do verbal answer-based method with children under 4 years old. But here I would also like to recommend not to use these kind of methods with children between 4 and 7 years old, because although they can perfectly speak, they can formulate accurate verbal answers, their verbal answers are not that reliable. They can express themselves via actions and behaviors much more. The third principle relates to memory systems, and here again, I don't want to go deep. I don't want to go into depth with its cognitive background, because it's quite complex and would take much more time. But I think it is very important to highlight and to know a bit about how memory works. And we have two distinct long-term memory systems. To be honest, we have more, but two are especially important for us now. One of them is episodic memory, and the other one is semantic memory. Semantic memory is the system that stores facts. We usually refer to this system as knowing something. So for example, when I say that I know London is the capital of England, and episodic memory is very different. It stores episodes, all the contextual information. It's the memory system that stores the events. So for example, when I remember how was my day when I was in London. And why it is important for us is that because semantic memory develops earlier and episodic memory develops much later, and it is still quite fragile for older children as well. So here I would like to highlight that try to avoid questions and tasks that require episodic memory with children. The fourth principle is, of course, try not to test children alone under 7 years old. They will not feel that comfortable themselves if they are, only surrounded with a stranger. And also I would recommend here to invite their parents, even for children aged between 8 and 11 years old as well. And I think, or based on my experience, parents are also more open to take part in the research if they know that they can see what happens there, they can listen what happens there. Okay, and here in the table, I try to collect the most frequently used methods with children. Here you can see that observation, behavioral studies, and eye tracking are very useful method for all age groups. Interview, because that is of course a verbal based method. I wouldn't recommend to use it under 8 years old. Small focus groups and usability tests can be a nice method, can be a useful method even with younger kids, But here I would like to highlight that behavioral tasks, playing scenarios are very, very important. And about surveys, to be honest, maybe it's just a personal thought, but I don't really like do surveys with kids at all. What I have experienced is that children don't really like take part in survey setups, and they don't really like to answer those questions. Usually it happens that they don't really read the questions itself and they just randomly answer them. So if it is doable, try to avoid using surveys. And the other thing that I would like to highlight here is if you use surveys, try to use guided ones, because I think that's the only survey method that can be used with kids. Okay, location matters a lot. As I already mentioned, children need to feel comfortable during the whole session. We have to carefully remove all the unnecessary elements, all the unnecessary materials from the testing room. And on the picture you can see how it looks like at Alta and CEU Baby Labs. So we have separate playing rooms, that the picture what you can see above, and we have very clean and almost empty testing rooms. In the testing rooms, there are nothing but the research materials and of course the researcher, the parent and the child. And all these rules also apply to online setups as well. So try to have simple and unicolor background and not the shiny and filtered ones. And try before the session starts, try to ask the parents to be in a quiet and not overstimulating place during the test. About timing, children are very busy. They have very, very busy school days, or they have very, very busy days at kindergartens. They are overwhelmed. Usually it also happens that, for example, they go for trainings in the afternoon, or they take extra classes, etc. So try to be flexible as much as possible. It also happened to me that, for example, I had to run sessions over the weekend because that was the only time that fit the child's timetable or fit the family. About communication, maybe it sounds obvious, but it is very important in case of children. Call the child by their first name and make eye contact with them. In psychology, we call these communication cues ostensive communication cues. And there are many, many research that demonstrated that these ostensive communication cues triggers children's attention. So whenever you want children to listen to you, or whenever you want, for example, children to listen to the task that you would like to give them, always call them by their first name and try to make eye contact with them, or use any other ostensive communication cue. The other thing what I would like to mention here is try to prepare in advance for the interest of the given age group. It is basically important for the introduction phase, because during the introduction phase you can ask questions like, okay, how was your day today, things like that, but those are not that interesting for kids. And they really like if they can resonate you, if you can come up with a topic that they really are interested in. So for example, I did a research with children aged between 5 and 6 a couple of months ago. And there was a little guy who I was speaking to during the introduction phase, and I told him that I knew Paw Patrol, and I also could name all the dogs from Paw Patrol, and he was amazed. I totally could sense that he looked at me differently after that moment, and he just opened up, and yeah, we had a very, very nice session with him. Okay, and how to run a session. Of course, a longer introduction phase is needed. It can be 10-20 minutes long, but also I also had longer introduction phases, so it really depends on the child, and also it depends on the age group as well. Try to be calm. Children can easily and quickly read nonverbal communication cues. They can sense perfectly if you are stressed, and if they feel that you are stressed, they will be stressed too, of course. And again, try to be flexible during the study. If they would like to go out for a break, let them do so, or if they would like to eat between the study, during the study, let them drink and eat. And my last advice regarding research with children is that before planning any kind of research for children, try to stop and be a child for a second, and try to empathize with that age group, because that's how you will be able to set up a study and environment that will be nice for the children, that they can enjoy themselves, where they can enjoy themselves. And also, I think it's very important to try to be creative as much as possible, because simple questions not always the best way to do research with kids. They not always answer these questions easily. So sometimes you have to come up with more creative ideas and more creative solutions. And here I just collected some books and articles for you if you are interested in this topic, or if you would like to run any kind of studies with children. I think it's good to prepare in advance and learn about that specific age group. And that was all what I wanted to say to you today. And
if there are any questions, we can take them now, so feel free to raise your hand.
What was the most challenging research project that you did with kids, and how did you handle it?
That's a good question. It was an eye tracking study with 1-year-old children. And to be honest, it took me for weeks to set up the stimuli, to cut the video for them. And what happened after that is that they were not interested in at all. They weren't interested at all in that movie, what I did for them. So basically, they didn't watch the screen at all. And how I handled it is just, I just gave it up, to be honest. After a few months, I thought that, okay, I cannot do an animation for them.
Thank you.
Okay, if there is no more question. Oh, there is one question.
Is there a minimum age that you would recommend for online studies? Like, how old the kids have to be at least that it makes sense?
Before COVID, I would have a different answer for this question. But after COVID, or during COVID, we also did online studies with children aged 3 years old. Not younger ones, but with children around 3 years old. But I think it could work with 2 years old as well. But I think that's a very different setup. So you have to be very careful running a session online with them. Then, if there is no more question, I would like to give the mic to Bori and Adam to continue the presentation. Yeah, just.
Ez jó kérdés.
Egyébként lesz, amikor mindketten mondunk valamit egy slide-ról, kiviseljem.
Azért akarom valahogy megálltok valahol, akkor is. Vagy hogyha egymás mellett álltok végig, akkor elég, hogyha egyikőtökön van. Ha végig egymás mellett álltok, akkor elég, ha egyikőtökön van.
Jó, akkor állunk egymás mellett.
De mindjárt Pető megmondja. Ha egymás mellett állnak, akkor elég, ha egyikőtökön van.
Hol lesznek olyan helyek, ahol...
Akkor
Én leszek itt, már akkor lesz.
és akkor melyik
És én
ütök?
megyek közelebb van?
Akkor Bori rád csiptetem. Igen, mert lefele terjed a hang.
All right. Okay. Can we start?
Yeah. Can you hear me? Yeah. Hey, it's really nice to see you here today. In the next session, we will talk about one of our projects at the studio. It will be about revolution robotics. And yeah.
Yeah, let's start.
Yeah, if you wouldn't guess, I'm Bori. I was the UX researcher on this project, and I'm at the studio 2 years now, maybe a little bit more than 2 years, but I have academic background as well. So I worked with kids before this project, and
my name is Adam. I also worked in the studio for 1.5 years, but right now I am working at McKinsey Digital, and I was the product designer and the UX lead on this project, which is called Revolution Robotics. And yeah, we wanted to start the presentation introducing the product itself and what was the main goal of the whole project. So we had on one part physical product, and on the other one a digital one. So first we had to understand what is the connection between the physical and the digital part of this product.
Yeah, and the product's main goal was basically teaching the basics of coding for kids.
Yeah, and what I think it's important to mention that we were responsible to redesign the UX and UI experience of these two products. So first, before we even met the client, we received this robot to kind of test it and tried it out. At first it was honestly challenging to kind of build it up from ground up. Okay. But it was interesting to build it up and then start to, I don't think it's working. Okay.
Can you see?
Okay. So yeah, it was interesting to kind of see how it works. We were able to set it up with our colleagues in the studio, and then we got to the kickoff, which was 1 day long, and it was in-person kickoff, which was very interesting in the studio because before that we okay, now it's working. Okay.
So it was
Where
an
was I?
in-person kickoff.
Yeah.
We had the chance after long years of COVID to spend 1 day with the client and also the head of engineering, and we could collect like the first information from them about what problems they could see. Like we talked about the customer journey as well, personas, what they can see, and also about the biggest competitors, so we could start basically working.
Yeah, and I think it's anyway. You can hear me. So I think we all got so we got the kickoff, we got the robot, and then we were able to start redesigning the application. What we can see on this screen is basically a before and after design of one of the screen, and we just wanted to put it in the beginning so you were able to see what are the kind of differences, the changes that we made to the application, and how we got to it. That's what we want to discuss.
Yeah, so the funny part is that we won't go into design for a while because I will talk about research a little bit before that. Is it working? Because here I can't hear it. So, so I will focus today on the legacy testing and the discovery part, because basically a couple of things what we established there we used during the redesign and prototype testing period as well. So I will mention a couple of things related to recruitment, the method we used, the location and timing, and also what we could experience during these sessions and what to pay attention during these sessions if you are working with small kids. Yes, so as Réka mentioned, one thing you need to understand that you won't recruit kids for these studies, but you will recruit parents with kids for these studies. So the first thing what we needed to take care of was creating a consent form just to be okay legally as well, because it's kind of rare that our team can work with kids. And the other thing what we realized early on at the beginning of the project, that our usual recruiting platforms like Hotjar Engage, it was Ping Pong before, and also like user interviews won't work most probably. So we decided with one of our colleagues to set up Facebook ad, a paid Facebook ad. And in this Facebook ad, we highlighted that kids can try out the robot set. We also offered some incentives, and we also put the age group there, what was between 8 and 14, and we placed these ads in Facebook and Instagram feed, and also in stories on Facebook and Instagram as well. And we were lucky enough because basically within 3 days we had more than 100 applicants for the study. And before we would go into usability testing with kids, I really wanted to highlight one occasion. We were lucky enough to take part in a robotics competition as part of our discovery phase. So basically, we could join teams during a robotics competition, and we could get first insights during this session. We arrived with an observation guide, but of course, because we were part of different groups, we could cheer for them during the competition part as well.
Yeah, and also I think it's important to highlight that sometimes as a designer you don't have that much of insight into the research part. It can happen, but in this case I was able to go to this event, and it was like very unique and very important for me to kind of meet with the kids, so meet with our target audience, and get into the room and see how, for example, they kind of start opening up a package. So from the start, like they try to build it up from the ground up, how they struggle, what type of things that they find very difficult. For example, the onboarding process already seemed like it's something that, you know, very big of an issue, because they cannot really build up the robot, because it's actually, it seems it's easy, but it's not. So it's very difficult to set it up, especially if you are a kid, and how they control the robot and things like that. So I think it was quite important for both of us to participate. It was on Sunday, so you have to manage your time a little bit, but I think it's fine.
Actually, I built this robot and it's not easy for an adult as well, I'm just saying.
All right.
So about the methods, we already mentioned the competition, and I'm sure that it won't be surprising that we mostly had like live moderated usability tests. And it means that we were in the same room with the kids. They could come into our office and we had these sessions together. And you can see on the top picture that we also recorded these sessions with the kids, and also the screen of the app, so we could follow their movement and their actions after that as well. And it was really important to record these sessions, because actually we realized quite early on that we can't really take notes during these sessions, because kids will pay attention to what we are writing down at that point, and they will just lose track of the task what we are giving them at that point. Yeah, we were not that lucky with the timing, and most probably it wasn't the best, because kids could arrive with parents only after working hours, so it wasn't ideal. But we had our sessions in our office. We tried to find a nice meeting room for it with colorful walls and also like a couple of books, but it's already also big enough to work together. And you can see that we have a technical setup as well to record, and also we had a microphone to have good recordings. And as I mentioned, we had these sessions mostly after working hours, so late afternoon. And if we go on, then I would like to share just a couple of things what we realized. I really don't want to share too many details, but I was kind of surprised how much time, energy, and also money we needed to invest in creating like a good atmosphere for the kids. Réka already mentioned a couple of things, but if we talk about time, we need to take our time to have discussion with the parents when they arrive with the kids, because they will be really interested and curious about what's going to happen. And also after the sessions, they will be really curious how kids were doing during the session, how they performed, and it was not about performance, we know, but parents usually ask these questions as well. And also at the beginning of the session, just to have an icebreaker part of the whole thing, to have a conversation with the kids. We asked them about like school and this kind of stuff, but I could also learn a couple of things, like I'm not sure you know that there is a video game where you can play football with cars. That was kind of surprising for me. And also Minecraft was kind of a big deal 2 years ago, because these projects 2 years old soon. And also we needed to be really open with the kids. It was my strategy, to be honest. I choose to be really open, so I let them know that they will hear a lot of questions. During this session, I was really open to introduce the whole setup, what we will do during this session, and also I really highlighted their role during this session, so I let them know that they will help us to make these robotic sets easy to use for other kids and more fun for other kids. And this was kind of a magic spell for them, to be honest, because they got really involved after this session, because they realized that they have a big role today. And another thing, another thing that we also realized that even if we create a really good atmosphere and we are really open with kids, they can struggle with summarizing their thoughts or attitudes or feelings, because in the end, at the end of the sessions, basically when we ask them that, hey, what was really hard for you, or did you find any difficulties during this session, and they just look me in the eyes and let me know that no, it was all fun and easy, but during the session I could clearly see them struggling a lot of times. So just rely on your observation a little bit more if you have sessions with kids. And after all the legacy testing sessions, when we tested the project, what was live then, we sat together with Adam and we discussed the results, and we realized that we have small usability issues, and also we could see some opportunities how we can make it even better. But today we would like to introduce the biggest usability issue we could find.
Yeah. Okay. We identified one big thing that first we didn't really know what it was about, but we saw that there is some type of loop within the application, and the kids get stuck in it. So the application has basically one big main feature where you can actually configure the robot, you can add programs to the robot, and you can control it, right? And the first two, so configure and the first and the last one, so the configuration part and the controller part was all in one place. But then they had to step out to add a program to the configuration. And then it was in a separate part of the application. And then they tried to go back, but then they didn't save the already existing configuration that they set up. So they didn't find that configuration. So they went back, maybe it's somewhere else. So, and this kind of loop just continued, and they weren't able to get out of this loop. So we identified this as one of the biggest user UX issue, and then I started to start putting together some type of solutions, and I put this screen here because this was this was the final one, and you may say that, okay, so that's easy. You just put everything all in together, but I'm just gonna say that no, it's not. So it was kind of like basically a fail. So I try something, and then I fail, and then try something, and then Bori test that solution, and the kids just don't get it, totally don't get it. So first, you can see here that I started using colors, so kind of like differentiate the different type of codes to understand, you know, like, I don't know, some type of like structural thing that the icon don't work. In the beginning, there were all type of like old icon set that kids didn't really get. So putting together kind of like a navigation panel on the left side, that was the easy part, but how it's gonna like structure, how it's gonna be structured, and how it's gonna look like in the end, it was a different story, because as you can see, I used different icons. We tried save, and then they didn't get it. Like, it's a floppy disk. Like, what's that? They didn't really understand it. So then we tried. It's not a save, but it's like you name your robot, but it has the same functionality. So in the end, it saves it for you, but we call it name it, but they also didn't get it. So we kind of went through this like, okay, let's try something. And then honestly, when like a week ago, we saw these, like, I went back to my old Figma file and checked all of the different ideas and ideations that I had. I think we were just laughing basically, because we went so far with the concept itself that I just didn't believe it. So I mean, honestly, like, look at this. Like, these are just like very early concept that we wanted to test. And here also you can see different type of structures. And for example, one thing that Bori always mentions for me and remind me of that, this kind of, oh yeah, okay. So this icon, what do you think? What it means? Like, what can you do with this kind of navigation? All right, okay. So anyway, so it's supposed to be like you can scroll, but we just try to say like, okay, so let's have this. Maybe they get it, maybe they don't. Then we added an arrow, but then no, they didn't understand it. So we had to go through like multiple variations where we make like, you know, we try to understand what they're saying, what the kid's saying for us. So I also attended a lot of usability sessions, which were, first it was all right, but then when, you know, after my 6th iteration, they still didn't get it. It was kind of like, okay, I just can't, I don't know what to do. And then in the end, we came to this, like the winner basically was this kind of solution where we have the main left navigation, so configuration, code, and control all in one place. And then when they, for example, open up the code itself, code section, then they can see this second type of navigation panel. And what you can see here is basically we put the arrow down below. And also we made sure that we leave one small component there, so they would be able to see that there is still something, so they would start to scroll down. So there were multiple examples like that, but because of time issue, we just wanted to showcase one of this main challenge from design point of view. The second one was something else, because Bori had multiple sessions with the kids, and after a while, from usability perspective, it was all right. It was fine. People, the kids could easily use the application, the prototype we made. But Bori came up to me one day and said, okay, so usability issues, no, nothing else, but they don't understand what that program is, what they can do with it. And it's something that from like usability perspective I couldn't do anything, but Bori came up with an idea that what if we had a section where kids can get into it, open it up, and then they can get more information on the different sections, features, programs that they need to use, and they will have better insights and bigger insights. And basically my job was to kind of figure out the concept, how that would be intuitive, how it would not kind of get into the whole user flow that they are in, but it's more like an optional thing. So if they don't understand something, they could easily open up this learning mode panel, and then we would showcase multiple tooltips around the screen. And then when they click on one of them, then a drawer component would just slide into the screen, and they would be able to see a full list of skills, the programs, and have a bit of insight and guideline basically that they would be able to learn from. The second issue and the second challenge from design perspective was the prototyping, because we still haven't mentioned, but we didn't have any developer on site at that point of the project. We tried to push that into like very early stage, but we couldn't. So we had very complex prototypes with different multiple features. And after one point, I said to Bori, I don't know where that line goes. So can we maybe separate the flows and test it with different, test it with kids? And because also it's very hard that you need to say to the kids that, okay, so you cannot click there. It's not possible. You cannot do that. It's not a live application. So first we tried to separate the flows, and then I started to create interactive components. So that's actually something that I would recommend highly for everyone who's a designer and who has to create multiple prototypes in a project. So you can basically add interactions inside of the component variants. So this was the second solution until we got a developer. And also because we didn't have any development team in place, we had to create a design system, like a design library, basically with all list, with full our components and the documentation next to it. What you can see illustration here, of course, it's not valid. It's not Revolution Robotics. We didn't have the final illustrations ready at that point, so I had to use placeholder for that. But basically, this was kind of like our handover, or like preparation for handover from design point of view. So we would have this all in place, so that when the developers came in, they would already have that library in place, and they would understand what that component does, how much variations it has.
Yeah, it's me again. So as I mentioned, during the prototype testing, we also recruited the same way and did everything basically kind of similar as during the legacy testing. And also Adam already hijacked one of our difficulties or challenges we had, because like explaining to the kids that they are testing a prototype, it's really challenging, because they will say that, yeah, we understand not everything works in the prototype, but they open the prototype and they start clicking on everything. And we are just like, okay, we can remind them a couple of times, but basically during the sessions we needed to repeat this sentence at least 10 times, especially if we had like smaller flows.
Yeah, and just imagine me sitting there and just saying that, push that button, push not that one, that works.
So you didn't say anything, your face said it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But just to me, not the kid, so don't worry. Another thing we faced during these sessions that you could see that we had really long prototypes. Our longest session was around 60 minutes. I would not recommend to do that because after 40 minutes kids will lose their attention and also their interest in the whole situation. And even if they could build this amazing robot, their discipline will change with time for sure. So around 40 minutes it was okay. But I wouldn't suggest to go for a 1 hour session with kids for sure. And another thing that we already mentioned maybe that we needed to adjust a little bit our working hours, but we were lucky enough because at the studio we have the opportunity for this. So we had the sessions late afternoon so we could start working later, but it was I think only like a personal challenge during this period of time. And just for the full transparency here today, we had some remote moderated usability tests with kids as well from the US, so it was all in English as well. But because of the time frame, I wouldn't go into details. I would just say that it's possible. They were really cooperative. Parents were really cooperative with us. It's possible we could make it happen. But if someone would be interested, please find me and I can tell more about it. And basically, how I wanted to close this session is that based on what we said now, you can feel that it was kind of challenging working with kids, but we could laugh a lot, we could learn a lot, and so it was also rewarding in a way for us as well, this period. And yeah, the app is live, so if you want to try the robot, please download the app, and we will be here after a short break, I think. And
the illustrations are ready.
Yeah, illustrations are ready, and also they started using it in Ireland in schools this year, and they will start using these robot sets in the US from next year as well. So I think it's kind of a great success for us as well. So thank you. Questions? Kicsit ízzel, bocsánat.
I'm okay.
A Figma prototype then, what did the robot do? I guess it
Yeah. So that was the other thing when we started to test the controller feature. That was one of the biggest challenge because they didn't understand that no, you cannot control the robot, but please try to imagine that you are controlling it. So just try to have it like that, and then we put down the robot. So what do you think that? But yeah, I think Bori.
But at the end of every session, they could try the robot, but with the old application as well. So the fun was there, and the promise was there that the robot will move for sure at one point of the session.
Yeah, but I think that was the point when when we had a meeting with the client, I said that please, we need developers to at least start with the controller feature because we would need more insights on that. Any questions?
Come on. No?
Did you consider using another solution for the complex prototyping? You stick with Figma. Was there any other options that you considered, and why did you stick with Figma?
I think at that point I didn't have time to switch between different platforms. So I think I would have had the opportunity to, I guess, switch to Exure, which is more suited for complex prototyping. But at that point, we had like 2 months left with a lot of work ahead. So I think we had discussions around that, but in the end, we said that let's stick with the prototype. Let's try what Figma prototype, and let's try to separate the flows, and actually it was, I think, big help for the kids as well. Yeah.
Did you have information architecture before the prototype?
Yeah. We had a lot of like research, and we had big Miro or Fig Gem boards with all of the insights. We just didn't want to like put that right now into the presentation, but yeah, we had everything. But I think.
No, I just wanted to add that we had kind of a long discovery phase, 5 weeks, so we have multiple workshops. We just didn't put it here, but yeah, we tried to explore everything during those weeks.
What kind of age would you recommend to use this robot? The first, I don't know, the kid's age, what you were do the usability tests?
Yeah, I think it was between 8 and 14, but actually we talked about this yesterday with Bori, where we had a kid who was six and a half.
So he was around 6.5. Because so please don't do that, because he was really nice, but he was more interested in building the robot and just driving the robot. So he was not interested in doing anything else in the application, and we couldn't really motivate him to do it because he couldn't really understand those things. But he was really nice and talkative. As a session it was really nice, but we couldn't get useful insights. So I wouldn't recommend to go under 8.
But we tried.
Try and fail.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for coming. After there's gonna be an interactive session.
Yeah, can we have a short break?
Yeah, of course. And thank you for everyone, for Réka, for Bori and Adam, and for Katica. And thank you for you to coming. And let's meet on December 5. Then gonna be a quiz night. Yes, it's gonna be a quiz night, so you're welcome.